And the only reason why I never went that route, because my mother told me there are two things you will never bring in this house: a white man and a wig. So she was very clear.
Mom was
And
very clear on the. My mom was like that too a little bit. She was like, "No, you ain't bring no, don't bring no white man up in here. I mean, white girl up in here at the time." So yeah.
mm-hmm. And my mother used to tell me, she said, you know, you're Black and you're gay. You have to be very careful. And this is why they tell people all the time, I can walk into a room full of white gays and hear and I can walk into a room full of Black straights and hear the word. I have to be comfortable and secure with who and what I am, because each community has done things to hurt me and each community has done things to help me. First and foremost, I'm Black. Looking at me, I'm Black. I could be quiet, I'm Black. Therefore, for me, my experience is Black, gay, and then HIV. Those three entities are the reasons who I am today. Had I not been so poorly mistreated at Brooklyn Hospital when diagnosed with AIDS, I probably would not be the activist that I am today. And the treatment was horrendous because I almost died. My mother had to drive from Cleveland, Ohio to Brooklyn, New York in the middle of the night because the hospital called and said, your son is dying, but they wouldn't give her any more information. So imagine a mother hearing her son is dying in New York, but then
nobody won't tell you why.
Right. So she drives all the way to Brooklyn Hospital. She turns it out because I didn't have a pillowcase. I didn't have any covers. They treated me like shit. They didn't want to touch me. I had an IV in both arms. But when my mother got there, people started jumping. So she stood over me to my left, and her boyfriend, who was a minister, to my right. And my mother was a typical Black mother. Are you ready to ask God for forgiveness for being gay? And I took off my oxygen mask. I was like, nope, and put it back on. And so we had this little dialogue, and I was like, if you're going to pray for your son, you're going to pray for your gay son with AIDS, or you're not going to pray for me at all. And she said, we're going to pray. And my temperature was like 100. I couldn't go to the bathroom. I was 5 shades darker than I am now. And she said, in the name of Jesus. And as soon as she said, in the name of Jesus, and touched me, my body shook in that bed and my temperature went down. So I tell this story to tell people it was through the love of my mother, who professed to Christ, who did not like the fact I was gay, but never forsaked me, never disowned me, who prayed over me. So you can never tell me I'm not anointed, and you can never not tell me God doesn't love me for who and what I am, because on my brink of death, when I was seeing my dead grandparents, when I was seeing dead spirits who I later realized were Orishas, my mother drove in the middle of the night and turned it out. So that changed my life completely. I was out then, but when you're on death's door and you have a disease that took out 100 of your friends the year before,
yeah.
And you're in a city where they treat you like dirt. I mean, when I called the ambulance, they made me take off my clothes to prove I wasn't a heroin addict because they didn't want to touch me. It made me walk down 3 flights of stairs and didn't want to touch me, and put me in a waiting room for 6 hours and didn't want to touch me. So I say all of that to say that African-American gay men and women and Latino gay men and women have to deal with racism, as well as the rhetoric from Black scholars that we're gay because of slavery, which to me is a poor excuse. The bigger issue is we've yet to discuss the sexual exploitation and rape of Black men during slavery. We've yet to discuss the sexual trauma that Black men went through during slavery. And yes, sodomy was one way that they did to embarrass and dehumanize Black slaves. But that doesn't mean that that trauma is why I'm gay. If anything, let's talk about the fact that people like me existed during slavery. Let's talk about that. I've read where if you were a feminine man, sometimes you were a house slave. And if you were a masculine woman, sometimes you were a field slave.
Really? I never heard that.
Yes. So these are the conversations that we don't have. There's a wonderful book. I might have to send it to you or give you the title. They interviewed a 100-year-old Cuban slave. He was from Africa.